Hello everybody, Professor Barth is here. Thank you for tuning in. This is lecture number 3. We're diving into the early history of money. By next week we will be dealing with coinage, but today I want to look at the pre-coinage monetary systems and economies, and we will break our lecture up into 3 parts: the Neolithic or Stone Age period, Bronze Age, including ancient Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, and the early Iron Age before the invention of coinage. So, when does money begin? Well, again, we don't really know. Now, this period here, the Neolithic period, roughly translated the New Stone Age period, before the early 4th century BC, and we call it the Stone Age because it was a period in which stone was used to make implements and tools with a sharp edge or a point, and then the Stone Age ended once metalworking really took off, and once metalworking became a predominant activity. I hesitate a bit to use the word Stone Age because I think it comes with a certain caricature, and the caricature I think is a bit unfair to the people of that era. I think many of us, when we hear Stone Age, we assume, oh, these were people just bumbling around and ooga booga and the stereotype, but that is not the case. These were the men and women of this era were extraordinarily smart people. I mean, their mental capacity actually was just as great as ours. The only difference is they didn't have the inherited knowledge or the degree of inherited knowledge that human beings in much later generations benefited from. But as far as their mental capacity and their drive, their ambitions, their energy, these are people engaged in, trade during this period, in the Neolithic period. We see advances in farming and agriculture, cultivation. We see the domestication of animals, early pottery, early textiles, a division of labor developing, and all of this together created a demand for trade. We also know through the work of archaeologists that there were long-distance trade networks in this period prior to the early 4th century BC. So dating back way long ago, we have trade that's spanning even hundreds of miles, goods imported and exported back and forth. And all of this creates, we have the demand for trade, we have the trade itself, but it creates a demand for a medium of exchange. And so was there money in this Neolithic period? Well, it's hard to say. And really, at a certain point, there's only so much you can say about this period. So much of it involves, we have so little knowledge of it. Much of it involves speculation. And there are many mysteries about this period that we just have no idea. I think we sometimes in our arrogance assume that we have all this knowledge about the past, and in reality that's not the case. There are many things that went on in this period that if we were to find out today, we would be totally shocked and surprised. Like, whoa, I wouldn't have thought that that would have gone on in those days. But we just don't have that information. We do have, again, archaeology as a guide, and we know that 2 materials in particular were highly demanded in this early period in human history: Flint and Obsidian, beginning with Flint, which you see pictured there on a screen. Flint is a hard sedimentary rock or stone that's used as a cutting tool, a weapon, arrowheads, or a fire starter. Flint can break into very sharp edge pieces, which makes it useful for knife blades and other cutting tools. It's a very durable product, and so hence the fact that it survived all of this time, that we can archaeologists can discover it. And in fact, one of the reasons why we believe it was used as a medium of exchange, first of all, because it was in such high demand. Flint was so essential for human survival that people would travel some distance or would trade to obtain flint. And archaeologists have found large caches of storage boxes or what have you of flint blades, and this has indicated that it was used as an article of trade, maybe more as a bartering tool as opposed to a money. But if you remember from the first lecture, if something becomes a medium of trade and becomes commonly accepted enough, we can appropriately call it a money. Was flint a money in this period? We can't say for certain, but it was a very important item of exchange and most probably a medium of exchange. So too was obsidian. Obsidian was a naturally occurring, or is a naturally occurring volcanic glass, and it's a product of rapidly cooling magma. It's hard and brittle. It can fracture into very sharp edges. If you've ever been to a volcanic site, there's one north of Phoenix in Arizona, and you can find this here. It's very sharp. You have to be careful. It's using cutting and piercing tools. It's very dark in appearance, as you see on the screen. But it can also be used for pottery, decorative materials, jewelry. It could, even if you polished it, work somewhat like an early mirror. And we've seen large caches of obsidian. Archaeologists have, that is. And so that has suggested that possibly this was a bartering tool. Bare minimum, it was an item of exchange of some importance. And also, it was a form of wealth storage. If you had wealth in this period, your wealth would have taken many different forms. One of the forms would have been collections of these valuable items. So that basically covers the Neolithic period. Tune in for part B for the Bronze Age. We're going to get a little more complex for the Bronze Age.